into view here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Getting Started with Prezi Video. My name is Kim, and I'm part of the training team here at Prezi, so I'll be taking us through everything you need to know to get up and running with Prezi Video. Our session today is going to be probably about 50-ish minutes. It'll depend on the questions that come up from the audience and what you want to check out today, but we've got about 50 minutes of content for you today that we will run through and show you all the basics of using Prezi Video. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to talk about how to get up and running with Prezi Video, and we're going to talk about things like creating your own content in the Prezi Video app for desktop, which we call Quick Create, if you want to throw some quick visuals or quick text up on your screen. I'll also talk today about using your own existing content, such as your slide-based content and how you can use that along with Prezi Video. We'll talk about different navigation and view modes. So you can do everything from being on screen next to your content to turning your content off to going full screen if you want to. So we'll show you all of that today and how you can use that as you're presenting to engage with your audience, and really showing how Prezi Video can help you form a better connection with your audience rather than hiding behind a screen share. We're also going to talk about how to connect to your video conferencing platforms today or record a video. So whether you are presenting live the way we're doing now in a meeting or a webinar, you'll know how to do that. And then also record a video to either save to your cloud and share via URL link, or to save as an MP4 if you're using it in a different format. So we're going to talk about all of that today. I'm going to go ahead and switch to a screen share in just a moment here. But before I do that, I do just want to point out that when you're using Prezi Video, it's a little bit different from what we're used to doing, which is going to share our screen in virtual meetings. With Prezi Video, it does interface right over your camera feed in your video conferencing center. So you don't have to share your screen to get your content to your audience, but I am going to switch to a screen share so I can show you kind of behind the scenes everything that is going on and how to use the platform today. So let me go ahead and do that now. And I always need to do a little rearrange of my windows and a little housekeeping for myself. So bear with me for a second here. I'm going to move my Zoom controls over. I'm also going to have my chat and my Q&A open on my other monitor. So I'll be checking that throughout our time together today. I do encourage any questions that you have, please put those either into the chat or the Q&A. I'll keep an eye on both. But I always like to say, if you've got a question, there's probably someone else on this call who would love to hear the answer. So I will be checking that as we go through and responding to them kind of in the moment as is relevant. If it's something that's not super relevant to the content today, or maybe we're not going to get to just for timing purposes, I'm happy to send follow-up resources after our session. And you will also get our recording in about 24 hours. You'll get that recording from Zoom. Okay. So got my Zoom controls and my chat and Q&A up over there. So this is the Prezi Video app for desktop. I've got it nice and big so we can see it for the moment. This is what we're going to be spending most of our time in today. But I do just want to kind of go back to basics and start from the beginning. So I am going to, first of all, completely just close out of this. Let's just close out of it. All right. So you're just seeing my desktop right now, but let's say you want to get started with Prezi Video and you're kind of starting from scratch here. The first place that you are going to go is prezi.com. So you'll want to log into your account. And Prezi is primarily web-based, meaning that most everything can be done here on your online dashboard. If you look in your left-hand sidebar, you're going to see Prezi Video tab. And here, in the web version, you're going to see quick record, import PowerPoint, and use Prezi Present. Okay, these are all options that you can do with the desktop app, but there's a couple things to know here. So in the web version, you'll see it says quick record, but there's no option to connect to your video conferencing platform because you do need the app to do that. You can think of the app as your remote control to get your content into the video conferencing platform that you're using. Now, that said, pretty much all other options that you're going to find on the web are available in the app, plus more, and the UI is basically the same. So where we're going to spend our time today is in the desktop app, because I kind of want to show you the full range of functionality there. But I just will point out quickly here. On the web, this is the basic UI. And this looks exactly like the desktop version. So if you know how to use the web version, you'll know how to use a desktop, and vice versa. So that's where we're going to spend most of our time together today. To get the app, if you've not downloaded it already, you'll find that in the lower left-hand corner here in our download center. So if I click Get Prezi Video on desktop, you'll see here that you can select the operating system that you're using, and then you'll just walk through that installation process as prompted by your system. Now, I'm going to put this link here into our chat, just in case anyone needs it. If you don't already have the app, don't feel like you need to download it right now to follow along. You're welcome to. But again, you'll get this recording after our session today, so you can kind of watch at your own pace as well. Okay. So once you've downloaded the app, next thing you're going to do is, of course, open it on up. So let's pop this open here. And a couple of things might happen when you first open up the app. In some cases, I've seen where it will automatically sync as soon as you open the app with your camera. But most often, you're not going to see your camera feed synced in right away. You're going to have a Prezi video background here. And then typically right up here, there's a little skinny gold banner that's prompting you to give access to your camera via your system settings. So follow those prompts. And then once you give access, you'll have to reclose the app and it will relaunch for you. And from there, your selfie should pop into your camera feed here. Okay. Now, I am on a Mac, so there are a couple small changes that you're going to see here in the app between my Mac screen and if you're on a PC or Windows device. Okay. So for instance, if you're on a Mac like me, all of your tool settings, or excuse me, your menu settings are going to be in the top toolbar. So I've got my little Apple icon and then Prezi Video, File, Insert, Edit Templates, so on and so forth. If you're on a PC or Windows device, you're going to find those same settings, but they're going to be in a hamburger menu up in the upper left-hand corner of the app itself. So if you click there, you'll get a drop down, and from that menu there is where you'll see all the same settings that I'm about to reference here. So once you get your camera access set up, I want to point out here under your camera settings, there's a couple important features that you'll want to check here. Number one is mirror your camera. And mirroring your camera is something that you're going to want to keep on, basically because that means when you're presenting, it's going to look like you're looking in a mirror, and all of your gestures to the left, to the right, etc., are going to make sense to you. If you turn that off, when you think you're gesturing to the right, it's going to look like you're gesturing to the left and vice versa. It can get a little bit confusing. So you're going to want to keep the mirror camera function on for ease of presenting. Also, if you ever need to switch over your camera feed, you can set that here. So right now, I'm just using the built-in on my laptop. But if I wanted to switch over to my Logitech, my external webcam, I could do that. And if you're using other virtual camera platforms, so maybe, I don't know, like Ecamm, OBS, anything like that, you can also use that virtual camera feed into Prezi Video to kind of use both platforms. Okay. If for whatever reason you look at this list and you don't see any cameras listed, go ahead and hit refresh camera list, and that should repopulate the list for you. Okay. Now you'll also see virtual background here. We're going to get to that a little bit later after we actually add some content on screen. All right, so let me just double check and see if you've got any questions about that, just to make sure here. Okay, looks like we're good, so we'll keep going here. All right, so we've got our camera set up. We only need to do that the very first time we are setting up the app here, or if you ever need to change your camera feed, but otherwise, after you set it up, every time you open the app, your selfie is going to pop into place and you'll be ready to start creating some content. Now, what we're going to do today is called Quick Create, and that means we're going to quickly create some content right here in the app. So I'm going to hit this big plus sign here, and that is going to create my first frame of content. Now, here you'll see I'm prompted to add in some text. Okay, and it immediately goes directly onto my camera feed here. Now, when you're looking at the content that you can add into your frame, you can add up to 1,000 characters of text and 1 visual per frame. So if you wanted to add in any visuals, you can do that by going to the Add Visual icon and either upload your own or use one of the visual integrations here. Okay. Now, what I want to do is give you kind of a real live example of how you might use this to quickly put together a meeting or a presentation for a meeting. So we are going to build a very short weekly update for a mock company called PayHut and kind of walk through all these different options to build your content. So let's create our first frame again. And let's go ahead and get some visuals in here. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to do is go down to my visual icon here. Now, let's take a quick moment and just kind of check out what some of these are. So number one, my first option is to add from my computer. Now, in that case, I'm going to be uploading a file on my computer that I've saved locally, which is what we'll do in a moment here. But I also want to just point out the different visual integrations that we have. So you've got Unsplash here for images. So pretty vast library of open stock images that you can use without worrying about copyright or license infringement. You also have the sticker and the GIF library. Now, these are powered by Giphy. It's not Prezi here. So I'd just like to caution anything you can find in your phone, you're going to find in the Giphy integration here. Meaning some are more PC and work appropriate than others. So just take a close look at what you're adding to your screen. And then you also have an icon library here with icons of different styles that you can add in for your visual story. So if I wanted to just search across the entire set here of visuals, I can use my top toolbar here. And let's just search for, we'll just search for team to start off with. Okay. And then I'm going to see the top results across all of our integrations here. If I want to kind of drill down into any of those and look a little bit deeper at one in specific, I can just hit see more and it'll take me specifically to that, that visual library. So we'll use those a couple times here in our session, but I'm going to back up here because what I want to do is add from my computer. And let's get into the correct file folder here. So I'm going to add in a logo here for the PayHut company. And we're going to create a couple frames, then we're going to talk about adding some different style elements here. So let's go ahead and create our next frame of content. And the first thing I want to do in my weekly team meeting is welcome our new hires. So let's just put welcome Jessica Smith. And let's add in a visual of Jessica. Okay, so we've got a couple frames here and we're going to create about 5 or 6 total. But what I want to do now is talk about kind of styling your content a little bit. And you'll notice here that the content has some floating bubbles of text here and a blue color to it, which actually works pretty well with our PayHut logo here. But you can change the template that you apply to your content, and it's going to change where your content falls on screen. So to do that, you're going to go to your more actions up in the upper corner here, those little 3 dots, and go over to choose template. Now from here, you might see a couple different things depending on the type of license that you're on. If you're on a team license, you are going to see a little drop down up here where it says training right now. Team licenses have the ability to have either the default templates or they can have a brand kit, which is what you see in the drop down here. If you're on a single license and you're the only user on your account, that means that you will just see the default templates. The brand kit templates are something only teams have access to. So if you don't see that drop down, that's probably why you're a single user license. So these templates here, these are going to determine where your content falls. So as I flip through some of the various templates, you'll see it's updating where the content is on my screen, and it's also changing the design behind it, right? So depending on the template that you choose, it might have a slightly different location, different text style, and it might have a different animation in and out of screen. So some of them are going to kind of slide left to right. Some are going to be more of an up and down fade in or pop in and out of your screen. So it kind of just depends on which template you choose. Now, you're going to find that you don't have a lot of editing options about where your content falls in the scenario of building because it is designed to be a quick create. So the options for getting content on your screen are fast, simple, and easy. So where your content falls is all determined by the template that you choose. Now, what you can change is if it's on the left or the right. I typically have my content on the right-hand side because I'm right-hand dominant. So I'm tending to gesture more often. And you'll notice here, I'm slightly offset from where my camera is on my laptop here. However, if I wanted to switch it to the other side, I can flip my template horizontally. That's going to be off to the other side. Okay? So that is one tip that I have for you as you're presenting with Prezi Video. Most of the time, we are used to presenting kind of like dead center with our webcam that we're using. And in this case, when you're presenting with Prezi Video, in most cases, you're going to shift just slightly to allow for where your content is. Now, that doesn't apply if you choose one of the templates that's in the lower third, then you can be a little bit more centered with your camera view itself. Now, just quickly here, I do want to show you what happens with the brand kit in the dropdown if you're on a team license. So everyone has access to the default, which is what we're looking at now. If you are on a team license and you have a brand kit applied, you can select that. So let's go ahead and choose PayHuts. So you'll notice here that now I've got the logo watermark by applying that brand kit, and also the colors. I'm going to switch back to my other side here. The colors of all of the templates are now updated based on the presets for the PayHut brand kit. So that's basically how the brand kit will work for teams. It allows you to brand your colors and your logo and also your text styles too. But otherwise, the design and the style of all the templates are going to be the same. I'm going to switch back over to our default here, since that's what I suspect most of us on the call are working with. So I'm going to use this kind of neutral charcoal gradient here for our presentation. Let's hit X and we'll go back to creating a few more slides. If you do have any questions about the templates or the brand kit, please go ahead and put those in chat and we will take a look at those. Okay, so let's go ahead and create our next slide here by hitting our plus sign. And next we want to talk about goal setting. And we'll say Q2. And let's get some visuals added in. Now, typically when I am putting together my content, I like to kind of stick with the same type of visuals. So in other words, if I'm using mostly photographs, I'm going to stick with the Unsplash library just because it kind of creates a little bit more cohesion as you're going through your content rather than using a mishmash of different styles. So if you're kind of combining some of the different visual elements, I would say just think about the overall style and look that you're going for between using something like the GIFs and the stickers with your photographs and then also your icons. All right, so we've got our slides starting to come together. Let's say at this point, I decide, you know what, I'm not sure that I'm going to remember all of my important points that I want to share with my team. So I want to add those into my speaker notes. Your speaker notes are not going to be immediately visible to you when you open up the app. And there's a couple different ways that you can view those. So way number one here is to go to your little icon right up here and use a drop down, and then you're going to see show presenter notes. So here they're going to be popped into a little panel on top of your viewport, and you can start to add these in. Now, keep in mind that your audience, when you're actually presenting, they're only ever seeing your camera feed. They're not going to see any of the other controls here. So the panel here for speaker notes, your timeline and sidebar, or any of the controls down here, only your camera feed. So let's go ahead and add, and Jessica is our new PM with a start date of 15th February. And let's add in some notes for goal setting. Now, much like using PowerPoint speaker notes, these are going to be dependent on which slide you're on. Okay. So once we get to actually recording a video or going live, we'll talk a little bit more about your different view modes that you have for your presenter notes and how you can kind of configure that a little bit more. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in a couple more here. One of the other types of content that you can add in is going to be MP4. So let's go ahead and just drag and drop that on here. Now notice all I did was drag and drop it directly onto the slide. You can also drag and drop content directly onto your viewport. Now that's going to work with content, not only like MP4s, but also any type of visual content. So if you are using a GIF, JPEG, PNG, PowerPoint, or PDF that you want to import here into Prezi Video, you can also drag and drop that in. You do not always have to go down to the add visual, although you can. Now, when you are adding in your video content, a couple things to know is that when you click here, you're going to have all your audio and playback capabilities. So you can start, pause. You can also turn your audio off if you don't want to be narrating over it and competing with that. So up to you. One thing to know about the audio itself is that this is actually picked up by your system speakers when you're using Prezi. Because keep in mind, you're not sharing your screen. So a couple things to check here. If you are using a noise suppressing software, or if you're using headphones, in some cases, not all, that will prevent your audio from being heard by your audience. So I always recommend, if you're trying it out for the first time with a video playing in Prezi Video, go ahead and just do a quick dry run to make sure that your content is picked up. So if you don't have someone who can be your audience member for that dry run, you can also record a video and just make sure that your audio from your video that you're playing is actually coming through in the recorded version, which we'll talk about making a video in just a second. All right, and we'll just add in a couple more frames here for our quick create. And let's add in an image here. Okay. Oh, and here's something to know. If you accidentally click on anything on your screen here, directly on your viewport, it's going to go front and center. So that's why you just saw that move that way to the center of my screen. If you click again, it's going to go back off to the side. All right, so we've got our few frames of content put together. And the next thing I want to talk about is recording a video, which we'll use to kind of go through some of the navigation features as well. So down in the bottom of the screen here, and actually let me turn off my video very quickly here in Zoom so you can see. There we go. When you're not connected to your meeting, you're not streaming your content anywhere, you're going to see these two options on the bottom here, either present in video call, which of course is going to be your Microsoft Teams, Zoom, WebEx, etc., or you can record for async viewing. So when you're using Prezi Video, it is either or, right? You're not going to do both at the same time. But let's say that rather than trying to get everyone together on a live call, I want to instead record a short message and I want to send that out to my audience. This is really useful if maybe you're just trying to juggle too many schedules and it's hard to get everyone live in the same virtual space. Or maybe you want to record something that's going to live on your website or an LMS or be embedded in a different presentation. So let's go ahead and hit record here. We'll see nothing really changes except now I have the start recording button. And if I click that, I'm going to get this 3, 2, 1 countdown. And then it'll flash and then you'll know that you're recording. When you are starting your presentation, don't worry too much about being ready to go on cue with that countdown, because you can actually trim the beginning and the end of your video. So that's something I wish I had known when I made my first Prezi video, because I think I flubbed my opener about 60 times and I just kept restarting the video to get it right. You don't have to restart every time. You'll just be able to trim that. So what I like to do as I'm starting off my video is to give myself a bit of a visual cue of where I want to trim that point to. So I'll kind of, get myself situated, ready to go. and then I'll either just do a little pause and a wave, or you can use your view modes right down here. So currently we're in what's called floating mode, which is the default, okay? But right next to it, you'll see that there's full mode. And if I click into full mode, that's going to take my camera feed out of view and it's going to go into full screen. This is also a nice way to start your video with just a kind of clean, simple thumbnail of your content. And then as you're ready, click back into floating mode and jump into your presentation. So up to you and how you want that to look at the beginning there, but two ways to do it. Now, in order to go through your content, there's a couple different things that you can do. You'll notice in the lower corner here, the lower right-hand corner, you've got some left and right arrows that move you back and forth in your content. You can also use the left and right arrows on your keyboard. You can use a mouse, and you can also use a presentation clicker. So it kind of just depends on how you're most comfortable presenting and what feels best for you. Now, let's say that at some point in my presentation, I want to switch to a screen share. Maybe it's because I've got content in a different platform that I've not built into my presentation, or maybe I just want to do a quick demo of a different piece of content here. In that case, I can go up to my three dots in the upper right-hand corner, my more actions again, same place where we found our templates. And from that drop down, I'm going to see my share screen option. So then this will pop up here and you'll see this is much like sharing through your video conferencing platform. You can either share your entire desktop and display, or you can select a specific window that you want to share. So I'm going to share just my dashboard here. Now, by default, because I'm in floating mode, it's going to be floating in a small window next to me. If I want to bring that up full screen for my audience, I'll just go back into full mode here. And then I can give my entire demo from my other window here, whatever walkthrough I want to give. And it's also easy for me to use my view modes to kind of pop back and forth in between. So I can show something, come back, engage with the audience, and then go back into the next portion of my demo or my walkthrough here. Now, you can also completely turn your content off if you want to hide your content. So let's say that you want to just kind of focus on your message, not your content, toggle that off. And then when you're ready to bring that back, you can bring it back just like that. And this works at any point, whether you're doing a screen share or not, with any content that you're showing your audience. When you're ready to stop your screen share, use your red button in the lower right-hand corner here, and it's going to go seamlessly back to your content wherever you left off. You can continue on with your presentation there. Okay. So again, just to kind of show you when we're not in screen share mode, you can turn your content on or off. You can go full screen with it. You can also go transparent mode, which in this view, you're kind of behind your content, but I'll show you why this transparent mode is useful in just a moment when we start talking about PowerPoints. All right, so when you're done recording your video and you're ready to wrap up here, you can hit done recording. And I like to do the same thing at the end, just give myself a visual cue of where I'm signing off. So just do a quick little pause and a wave. This is why trimming is great, because this is not exactly what I want to send out as my thumbnail here. So let's come here to trim. And here you'll see you can just grab the slider and then find your trim point. So if I wanted to trim to just kind of my nice clean thumbnail, I can do that. And I can also trim the end here as well. Okay. Now, it's just the beginning and the end, so we don't have any trimming capabilities in the middle because we're not really an editing software, but you can kind of clean up that beginning and the end point there. And then your save and share options, you're going to have two of them. One is going to be to upload to your Prezi account, in which case this is going to live on the cloud and you will have a URL that you can share, or you can save it locally as an MP4. So it kind of just depends on how you're going to be using that content and what that destination is where you're getting out to your audience. Sometimes I'll do both just so I have the backup, but let's go ahead and hit done here. I'm not going to save this particular gem of a video, but I do want to show you where your content will live once you have it uploaded to your account here. So let's just hit done. We'll X out of this. And let me go back over to our Prezi account. All right, let me pull this up here. And looks like I need to switch to a different training account here just to grab. There we go. Looks like I didn't have any videos shared that I could show there. So let's just switch to a different one here. I have several different training accounts and just juggling between them. So once you have created your video, you're going to go over to your Prezi video tab. And then all of the videos that you've created will appear here. So let's say this was the one that I had just created here. I can go into my sharing and privacy settings directly from the thumbnail and grab a link to view it. But let's say I want to update a couple things. I can go into my settings for that particular video. And what you'll be able to update here, you can do changes to the title. You can also add in different tags. So let's say that you had a publicly available video and you wanted to be found by search engines with certain keywords. You can add those in here so that your video is found when people search those terms. You can add in your description here. Now, by default, there's going to be some information kind of broken down into chapters based on what's generated by your video, but you can, of course, manually edit any of that here. You can choose one of the thumbnails suggested here by the program, or you can upload your own. And you can also manage your subtitles here. Sharing and privacy settings. This is where you'll go if you want to make your content public. And you can also add in specific people that you want to have access to it. By default, for accessibility reasons, it will have auto-generated transcript and subtitles. You could turn that off if you don't want them. And you can also choose to record your content again using the same on-screen visuals, or you can delete the entire video. Okay. Your share option is also here if you need to grab that URL once you've updated anything. And then on the bottom of your sharing and privacy screen, you'll also find some social media destinations and then also embed code. All right. So that is all about creating and sharing videos. Let me know if you have any questions about any of that we just covered there. I'm going to get out of a record mode and go back here. Okay. So we talked about creating some quick create content here and recording as a video. Now, a couple of things before we close out this content, move on to talking about PowerPoints and slides. Let's say that I have set up all of my content here and I actually want to reuse this next time I am going to be creating a video, or maybe I'm reusing it for multiple meetings. I don't want to recreate all of this every time I have a meeting. So in that case, I can simply save my content by going to my three dots. Let's hit save. And let's just put this on my desktop here. Now, let's close out of here. And let's say that I'm ready to start my video or jump into my next meeting. All I have to do is find that content that I saved. It's going to save as a .pvl file or Prezi video like create. When I double click on it, it's going to auto launch the app along with all the content just as I left it. Now, if I need to come in and make any updates to it, I can still do that. So maybe my message from the CEO is out of date. So maybe I just want to come in and delete that. And maybe I want to talk about our team building event before goal setting. I can click and drag and rearrange my content there. All right. And one thing I realized I did not cover as we're talking about recording our video, the different views for your presenter notes. So let's go back and talk about that real quick. So we added in some presenter notes on a couple slides here. And by default, when you open up your presenter notes, they're going to be attached to your viewport. Now, as I'm presenting, I personally don't love to have my presenter notes in this mode simply because it draws my eye away. So if I'm using presenter notes, I will typically change these under my view settings here to pop out presenter notes, because now they're going to be in a separate window that I can move around my screen, and it acts a little bit more like a teleprompter for me. So it's not going to draw my eye away from my camera. I can look more like I'm actually having eye contact with a quick reminder for what my presenter notes are that I want to share with my audience. All right, let's close out of here. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is using your PowerPoints and your existing slide decks or building in PowerPoint itself. So I've got a PowerPoint here. Now, this is not a fully built out PowerPoint, just 4 simple slides with some placeholder content. But let's say that rather than doing a screen share of this PowerPoint, I actually want to use this with Prezi Video. So in that case, let's go ahead and open up our Prezi Video. I don't have any content pulled in here, but I want to import this into my screen. So I'm going to create my first stream of content, again, just by hitting that plus sign. And then let's just drop that PowerPoint directly over. So you can see here what it's doing. It says importing my PowerPoint. And basically what the program is doing right now is it's taking each slide of your presentation and it's converting it into an image file. And that image file will then interface over your camera feed here. So depending on the size of your PowerPoint, as well as say like any heavy visuals or anything that you have in there, it'll take a second to generate that transfer. Typically, for most PowerPoints, it's like, I would say 60 seconds or less, but if you have an absolutely massive PowerPoint file, it will take a little bit longer. So I always like to recommend choose wisely with the PowerPoints that you're trying to import. And if you're wanting to use just a few key slides, maybe pull those into a separate file before you start that import process if you're not using your entire PowerPoint. So now I've got these converted and I can select either just a couple that I want to work with, or I can import all. Let's just go ahead and import all 4. And you'll see that they're going to pop in as slides or frames into my timeline here. Now, from this point, if I wanted to present this content as is, I can just right click through it and it's going to show slide by slide. Now, just like we looked at with our other content, I can still go in and change the background or the template that I'm using, right? And I can also add in some additional call outs. So if I have something, for instance, that's maybe a little bit small, difficult for my audience to see, I can go in and add in a little text call out. Now, the real magic happens when you're using PowerPoint with this transparent view, right? So in this case, if I go into transparent view, it takes away the background of my slide and it leaves me with the on-screen elements. So this way I have a really cool kind of immersive feel where I'm actually kind of part of the slide, but using all the design capabilities that you're probably already familiar with in PowerPoint. So I always like to show this feature because many of us have been using PowerPoint for a long time and are super familiar with how to build content there. So if you're just getting started with Prezi Video, and maybe not ready to dive completely into using the Prezi platform, this is a nice way to kind of just get started creating some cool content using PowerPoint and Prezi Video together. Now, of course, for most of the average PowerPoint slides, they are going to have content that looks kind of like this, right? With content across the entire canvas. So if you are wanting to build for use in a transparent view, what you're going to want to do is build your slide out so that part of the slide has room for you as speaker. So in other words, we didn't put any text boxes or visuals on this half of the screen here because that background is going to become transparent when we go into our transparent view, and that's where I'm going to appear. So you'll want to think about, if you're building in PowerPoint, keep your content along the lower third or kind of out to the outside, and just make sure that there's nothing over your face or where you're going to be as presenter. And this works really nicely. All right, so let me double check here, see if you've got any questions. Doesn't look like it so far. So again, I am keeping an eye on the Q&A and the chat as we're going through. So if you have any questions, feel free to get those in at any time so I can get those answered for you. All right, so last couple things that I want to talk about. If you're using something like a virtual background, which many of us do, you'll want to use the virtual background here in Prezi Video, and I'll show you why. Let me stop my share for a moment and turn my camera back on in Zoom. Okay, so if you're using Prezi Video, virtual background capabilities for most video conferencing platforms don't play well with content because the AI is not smart enough in your video conferencing platform to recognize your content on screen. I'll show you what I mean here. Let me turn on just a blur. There we go. Took a second, I froze there. So I've got a blur on my background now, and the AI recognizes that I'm here. I'm a speaker, right? But what it doesn't recognize is that I've got this content here in Prezi, right? Because as far as your video conferencing platform is concerned, this is just part of your camera feed. So it might as well be a background element. So in that case, where you're wanting to use a virtual background or a blur background, what you're going to do is turn that off in your video conferencing platform, but then use the virtual background capability actually in Prezi, because that's going to layer really nicely with all of the content here. So let's go back here. So where you're going to find your virtual background, two different places. Number one, you can go back to your camera settings here. And again, if you're going to be in a Windows device, it's in the upper left-hand corner of your hamburger menu. If you're on a Mac, it's going to look like mine. And you can find your virtual background here, or you can go to your three dots, more actions menu up in the upper right-hand corner, and then you'll see the virtual background option there. So here, you'll see that there's a few that are built into the system. So you can, of course, use your blur. You can use one of the presets here that's built into your options, but then you can also add your own. So if I click on my plus here, let's get over to, so let's say we'll just choose a fun one here. Maybe you have a theme specific or a branded background that you're wanting to use. You can upload that here, and it's just going to stay in your sidebar until you go in and delete it. So once I add this, I can just keep it there. I don't have to add it in every time. It will just be available for me. So you can add in as many of those as you like and have them available to you here, depending on the presentation that you're giving. All right, so last but not least, I do want to talk about connecting to your video conferencing platform. So right now it says presenting in video call. I'm going to, again, turn my camera off in Zoom as if I'm not connected quite yet. There we go. So before you're connected to your video conferencing platform, you're going to see present in video call. And if you click on this option right down here, you're going to get a screen that pops up that will give you a quick walkthrough of how to connect. This in and of itself does not connect you, it just shows you how, because the actual connection is going to happen in your video conferencing platform itself. Okay, but if you want a little GIF walkthrough or a step-by-step guide, you'll just click on the appropriate column here, a tab for the video conferencing platform you're planning on using. That said, they all work in the same basic way. What you're going to do is switch over your camera feed from your built-in or whatever you're typically using in your video conferencing platform, and then you're going to click onto the Prezi camera. Now we're live on Zoom, so I can't show you the back-end controls on Zoom, so I've got some screenshots I'm going to show you. And we'll take a look at Zoom and then also Microsoft Teams. So those are the two that I find pretty much everyone uses, with a few exceptions. So if you have questions about other video conferencing platforms in specific, please let me know. So in Zoom, what you're going to do is go over to where you start and stop your video, and you're going to use your up arrow to pop open your menu, and you're going to click on the Prezi camera. Now, if you've just downloaded the Prezi app for the first time, you might not see this Prezi camera the first time you go to use Zoom. All you're going to have to do is completely close out of your Zoom program and reopen it, and that will trigger it to recognize the Prezi camera. This is just a virtual camera that is going to sync all of the content that you have in your camera feed here directly into your Zoom. Microsoft Teams, again, works the same way. It's just going to be in a slightly different spot where you'll find it. So first, you are going to, again, find where you start and stop your camera. Right next to that, you're going to have some more action menu here, and you're going to go into your device settings. So click on the three dots and then device settings. And then once you click into device settings, you're going to get a secondary menu that pops up. It will look something like this depending on which version of Microsoft Teams you have. But then again, scroll down to your video settings, and then under camera, you're going to select the Prezi camera. So same deal, you might have to close out of Microsoft Teams and restart it in order to have it recognize the Prezi camera if it's the first time that you're using the two together. But then that's it. You are going to have all your content synced up into your meeting here. Now, because it's not always fun to have your double vision here with your meeting in your self view and then also your app in your self view. One other tip that I have is that you can completely collapse your self view here and drive your presentation just from the sidebar. So if I click here, it's going to auto collapse my self view. I've got all of my same options here, right? Timeline. I've got my different view modes. And then I can also still pop out any of my presenter notes if I have those built in. Okay, so I can have that kind of view going here, but then when I am actually presenting, let me come back here and start my video. There we go. It's frozen for a second there on my end. Now I can actually drive my entire presentation from that sidebar view. And as I'm progressing, I can use all of my various view modes to pop in and out of my content as needed. And I'm also looking at my presenter notes, which you, of course, as my audience cannot see, but you can see my presentation as I'm moving through. All right. Let me come back here and take a quick look at the chat and the Q&A. Still no questions, but we've come to the end of our regularly scheduled programming, the content that we had planned for you today. So we do still have a few minutes left. I'm going to hang out and see if there are any additional questions that come in. If not, and you have all your questions answered, I just want to say thank you for joining today, and I hope you found this session helpful. Again, you will get the recording of it in about 24 hours or so from Zoom. You'll get that link along with a password so you can rewatch as needed. Again, if you have any questions, now is the time to get them in here so we can get those answered for you. And again, if it's something that we've not covered today, it's not directly relate to the content, I'm happy to send out additional resources after our call. So if there's something not directly related to Prezi video that you have a question about, let me know and I'll see how we can get you connected with some help. Okay, I don't see any questions coming in. Looks like people are jumping off. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Last thing I will leave you with here is that we are constantly updating our training page with additional live offerings. So prezi.com/training is where you can keep an eye on all of our upcoming webinars. If there is ever a session that you're interested in, but you're not sure you can make it live, I would say register anyway, because we will send you the recording even if you don't make the live session. Also, one more page here, prezi.com/learn is where we've got some great on-demand content. So if you haven't checked out this page, we're constantly adding in additional tutorials and additional resources for you there. So prezi.com/learn is another great resource for on-demand training for you. All right. So thank you so much for being here today. I hope you found this session useful, and we hope to see you on a future live session from the training team. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everyone.